Hello everybody, welcome to a video about VC Package Manager. It's actually a redo of an earlier video I did on this subject. So I just thought I'd make a clearer, more concise version because let's be fair, let's be honest, that old one was a little long-winded for no particular reason, mostly because of my lack of experience with VC Package Manager. So I've used it some, I've learned it some more, I used it for a few projects, and now I'm just gonna whiz you on through it without any of the nonsense, or at least less of the nonsense and more clarity. So we're mainly going to be focusing on Windows here, and we're also going to be looking at mainly using it with Visual Studio and letting it be the package manager for Visual Studio so that we don't have to manually add libraries to each of our projects. We can just download them once with Visual Studio. Package Manager, VC Package Manager. So you'll find VC Package Manager. So I'm just going to search Google for VC Package Manager. So you basically just, if you search for it, you'll find it. There's a GitHub, Microsoft link, and you just click on that. So this is how you get it. You have to clone it. That's the basic way you do. I guess you can get the zip. You can go to releases and get that, but we're just going to clone it in this case. So once we're here and we're all done with that, we can move it aside, and you just want to open up whatever you use to clone with. I've got a git shell here, but I also use fork, which essentially does the same thing. It's just some software to help out. Yeah, so I've got it downloaded here, actually, is the repo. And since I've last worked with it, there's actually been some updates. So this is really frequently updated, which is, that's probably a good thing. Usually a good thing, unless they're breaking stuff. So I'm just going to go to my master here and right click and go to pull. If you've done it with command line shell, I'm sure you already know how to do this. If you're stuck on Git, you should probably look at some tutorials on Git or something, but it's just a Git pull on when you're on the repo. Okay, and I can hit console here to go right to where it is. And I have it on my E drive and storage source repos, VCPKG. Now in this shell, in this Ming GW64 shell, I'm probably not going to be able to run the commands. So I'm going to open up my standard command line here for Windows standard command prompt, and I'm going to run them all in that one. So cloning is the first step, and you can have it multiple times. Each clone of it, and wherever you clone it, you can clone it in different directories. Each clone of it is a different set of library management. So if you only need one, maybe you're the only developer or something, then you probably only need to clone it once. But if you want separate library management, you just clone it somewhere else and do these configurations that I'm going to show you. So you can see here that I had to change to my E drive, and then I just changed directory to where it was. So now I'm in the directory. So the first thing you do is you run a bootstrap, and just hit tab, let it autocomplete, and you'll get this bootstrap vc package.bat. I'll make this a little bit larger, and just hit enter. And this is going to build everything. Building VCPKG.exe. I've done this once, so I don't necessarily need to do this again, but since I did just do a pull, I guess it can't hurt. I didn't really look to see if there were any code updates or if it was just other stuff. But this shouldn't take too long. It's just going to run through, compile all this CPP code, and maybe we can take a quick look at what this code was while it's doing that. Like they fixed a build error on Linux, and there's a bunch of stuff here. It's not anything that I know exactly what it is, so not too concerned. And it looks like it finished. I don't know if this happens to you guys, but for some reason my command prompt only goes so far before it just decides it's going to stop showing me what's going on, and I always have to hit enter in it. I don't know if that happens to anyone else. It's probably just a setting I have somewhere. Okay, so now that we've done the bootstrap, the next thing we need to do, there's a couple things we could do. We could just start messing with libraries, or I guess the thing you really need to know, though, I'll show you the things you need to know. That's where we'll go. You need to set it so that Visual Studio uses this one. And the way you do that is you just type in VCPKG integrate install and hit enter. And that now tells your computer, especially when you launch Visual Studio, because it's like pre-set up for it basically, to use this VCPKG. It uses this folder for all its libraries. So if you have Visual Studio already open, when you do this, you need to close Visual Studio and reopen it. But now what happens is when you open Visual Studio and you make a C++ project, it now looks for libraries based on anything you've downloaded and installed. It does the linking, and then including headers for you. So you just don't need to touch any of that, which is really cool. So the project I have open here is a project I've been working on for a while called Ancient Archer. It's like a pseudo game engine, scripting game engine. But I was manually handling all the libraries before, and I've just deleted all those libraries I was manually handling, because now I can just do them all with VCPKG. So I'm going to right click on my project and just show you. This is something you normally do with Visual Studio. Normally you set up the directories, normally you set up the library stuff. You can just set all these to default or leave them default. Sure, change them if you want, but basically what I did in my project is I set them all back to default, because now there's this configuration area called VCPKG and it says use it. Yes, this is default here. I didn't change any of this. And yeah. So now it detects that and it uses that. So I've actually got GLM, GLAD, and OpenGL stuff, ASIMP, and one other, GLFW installed, and it now just works. Like I can just hit start on my little sample project here and just confirm that it's using all the libraries. Like if this works, it's going to be load models using GLFW, using GLM, and using one of the other ones that I said. What is this? I have tape on myself? All right. So yeah, it loads up everything. It uses those libraries. I can play around here. My project works, and I no longer have to manage these libraries on my own. I can now just let VCPKG use them. So how do you install libraries, you might ask? Because that's sort of important. Well, you just go to your command prompt and you go VCPKG search. And this will show you every single one. So you don't want to do this. You want to give it some variables, you know, like search GLM or search Poco, or you know, whatever library you're looking for, whatever C++ library you're looking for. There's a ton of them, of course. You can search for any of them, and when you find the one you want, you just install it. You'll see the name of it come up like so. There's special versions. If you type it in with brackets, you can get these special versions. But all I had to do was VCPKG. I did GLM, GLFW3, GLAD, and ASIMP. Oh, I need to put the word install here. Yeah, you can just do one at a time, or you can chain them like this and it'll do all of them. But something that is rather important, and that is the triplet files. This is something I missed in the first tutorial, and probably the main reason I'm redoing this, other than the long-windedness of it. So triplet files, what are they? By default, it sets it to x86 Windows. So if you just go through what I went through and just install this, it'll install the x86 Windows version of it. So what you can do, say we want GLM, I'll do GLFW3. If you want the x86, you just put a colon there and x86 or x64-Windows, and that'll give you the 64-bit one. This is the default. If you don't touch anything, it just gets you the 32-bit binaries, which apparently really annoys a lot of people. Because I was reading online, and let's see, here it is. Let's just go to the top of this here. Install 64-bit packages as default instead of x86. And someone says, I believe nowadays you should just do the x64. Lots of thumbs up. Someone said, you can just set a system environment for this. So if you don't know how to set a system environment, I'll show you that in a minute. How to set your system environment variable to this, so that it just does it by default. But you know, there's some comments go on down here, and some of these things are pretty interesting. Basically, it's everybody saying, hey, why isn't it just 64-bit? Why hasn't Microsoft caught up with the times? Why isn't it 64-bit? Lots of people being like, yeah. So yeah, someone says you can just do this colon x64 thing if you want to do it individually. But then someone comes down here and actually explains there are reasons for it to be 32-bit. It's something to think about. I don't know. A Steam survey says that 99% of Windows users are running 64-bit. I'm sure you are. Everybody pretty much is these days. Someone's in here says, hey, there are parts of Visual Studio that are 32-bit still. And that if your program isn't using over 3 gigs of memory, there's a good chance that it's more efficient as a 32-bit program. I don't know how true that is, but it's just something to think about. This guy here says it. Sure, no one upvoted it, but that doesn't mean anything after all. The most popular thing does not mean it's the right thing. My impression is that in the Windows world, the saying goes, use 32-bit mode unless you have a good reason to use 64, hence everything defaults to 32. 32-bit programs are smaller, more memory efficient, sometimes faster by being more cache friendly. So it's not about market penetration of the 64-bit CPUs or anything else. If you need to map more than 3 gigs of memory, you need faster numerical operations, sure, switch to 64-bit, otherwise 32-bit's fine. So yeah, you just gotta type it in here. And if you don't want to have to do that every time for every install, you can set your environment variable. And to do that, just click your start menu down here and type in environment variables. You'll see it, it'll pop up, edit the system environment variables. It's part of the system properties. So there's other ways to get to this. I think you can right click here and go to system, and it's probably in here somewhere. Yeah, so you just want to click on this. Then click here, it's under advanced tab, environment variables. And you'll see here there's system variables at the bottom. So there's like your user ones, and then there's your system ones. And all you do is, let's see, I've already added it in here, I think, yeah. VCPKG underscore default underscore triplet, and then you just type in x64. So what you would do is you would just literally put this in here. I click new, and went to this, default triplet, and then x64-Windows. Probably going to say it's already in there. Yeah, same one. And then you hit OK. And now you don't have to put this. It will just automatically get the 64-bit ones. As you can see, it tried the 64. I've already got this installed. So if I install, I don't know, let's just install Poco. It tells me what it's going to do. Looks like it's getting all the x64 ones. Now, I want x64 specifically because, hey, if you're building a game engine, you're probably doing 64. There's definitely going to be a point where I'm going over 3 gigs of memory. And that's what I've been working with, is 64. So, yeah. And that's basically it. You just install the libraries you want. And when you run Visual Studio, you'll just have them automatically, it'll just pick them up here. And you'll just be able to include whatever you've done. So you need to look at the documentation for the library, but now that Poco is installed, I'll be able to just add it here. I don't know how to use Poco very well, to be honest. But another thing to keep note of here is once you install a new library, you generally have to close Visual Studio and reopen it when it's done, because it usually has to do that before it picks up the new library. So just FYI. I think that's pretty much it. I'm really not going to get into anything further. This is really all about using it with Visual Studio. But you will see here, if you're using cmake, your find package will now actually work to find these libraries. So in your main cmake list.txt, you can just put in this find package for whatever library, config required, and then target link libraries. It'll tell you exactly what you need to type in your cmake to use these libraries. And there's a little bit of info about pointing it to the VC package manager cmake too, but there's just one more thing you need to add to it. Let's take a look. I think it's right here in this main GitHub repo. And if you're using cmake in an IDE, yeah, okay, when you do your build, you need to do this toolchain file that is your path to VCPKG scripts build system VC. Yeah, so you'll see that if I go to, let me see here. So if I go to this, I'll just do open and file explorer. We'll find in there what it talked about, scripts, cmake, it's in here. So the file you need to point to with that cmake command, if you're using cmake, is in there. So that should cover the cmake end of it as well. And that's basically it. Yeah, you basically clone it, run the bootstrap, and then install. But before you do this install, make sure you're getting the right version by doing that environment variable thing, or like I just talked about, tells you how to search, do the integrate install for Visual Studio to pick it up. Oh, and you can also type list to see all the libraries you've installed so far. Good luck. Have a good is that a word? Have a good luck getting Visual or VCPKG going. And be sure to update it frequently if you're using it. There are like daily updates to it. A lot easier than compiling them yourself. This does all the compiling for you, does all the linking, does all the including. I know I already said that, but just reiterating at the end of the video here to make sure it's clear. All right, well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy using this. I'm gonna do Conan next. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a tutorial about Conan and how to use it to manage your libraries. And if you don't want to miss any of my updates, because occasionally things change, or I make corrections, or new cool stuff comes out about coding and things. So subscribe. That's what I'm getting to here. please do the subscribe thing so that you are notified. Of course, hit the bell if you really want to be notified, and I'll try to keep you up to date on all the cool stuff in the coding world. Also do some tutorials on video editors and stuff, and I have a Patreon. Shout out to the Patreon. Please go there and maybe consider, helping out. Buy me a coffee, a beer, whatever it may be. I would really appreciate it. And I'll get some special stuff up there, including you guys getting to vote on what content I make next. And at some point, I'm going to have a Discord for the members there only, where you can chat and interact with me daily or ask me questions or the community questions. And hopefully we can get a nice group of people that knows how to do a lot of cool coding stuff, and we can help each other advance. All right. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.